Okay, I'm going to demonstrate the Stevie Ray Vaughan picking technique, the Stevie Ray Vaughan right hand technique. And I want to start off by saying I'm using nines. Okay, so these are not Stevie Ray Vaughan gauge strings, they're very light strings. I'm using an amp on a clean setting, no overdrive, nothing. Okay. So I'm not getting a Stevie sound here. You know, if you use heavier gauge strings and you put overdrive on your amp, these techniques will be amplified. They'll be, enhanced much more. But I'm doing this so you can hear what I'm doing. So I'm not doing a Stevie Ray Vaughan impression here. I'm not doing a Stevie Ray Vaughan imitation. I'm showing you his technique, how he plays the guitar. There's a lot of people who can play Stevie like note for note. I'm not one of those guys. I don't play anything note for note. I kind of imitate what they sound like, and I used the Stevie Ray Vaughan technique a lot. When I was younger, I used it a lot. Now I don't use it as much. I use upstrokes nowadays. I play with more upstrokes, and Stevie did mostly downstrokes. Now, I want to tell you that Stevie played with a lot of conviction. Okay? Stevie was 100% committed to any note he was playing. And that's important. That's important when you're trying to play like Stevie. You got to be committed to your note. You can't be thinking, well, is this the right note, or am I going to hit this right, or am I turned up loud enough? Is my sound, am I doing, am I in the right key? You have to have zero doubt when you're hitting a note to play it like Stevie. Whether you're using his technique or not, you want to be 100% committed to playing that note with a lot of conviction. Okay? That's kind of the starting point mentally, And physically, this is what he did. We're going to start without the pick, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate to you what he did, okay? First of all, let me demonstrate what he didn't do, okay? You see these guys doing this where they have their guitar, where they have their arm rooted to the guitar, and then they move their fingers like this. Eddie Van Halen did this. He moved his fingers like this. Move his little, your thumb and your finger like this, or you move your wrist like this, or you move like a circular motion, or you move your wrist kind of up and down. What I want you to do is I want you to grab your arm like this, okay? Just grab your arm and then see how hard you can move your wrist. You can't move it very hard. Even if you cock it back all the way and push down, you can't get that much power. Hold your arm so it doesn't move and see how much power you get doing this. You don't get a lot. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a power guitar player. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a forceful guitar player. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a hard-hitting guitar player. He played hard. He played his guitar with a huge amount of force. Focused force. And that focus he developed over the years and years of playing. He'd been playing since he was, 8, 9 years old? So he was sloppy early on, and then as he developed his style, he got much more concise, much more precise, much more focused. But his force never changed. He's playing with a lot of force. That's where the conviction comes in. He's committed to that note. And he's played, because, to hit it that hard, you have to be committed to it. You can't back out. So you want to play hard, okay? And you can't play hard like this with just your wrist. To play with the Stevie Ray Vaughan picking stroke, right hand technique, it comes from up here. It comes from your shoulder. It sounds odd, but all of your strength and power comes from up here. And then you're guiding with your forearm. So it starts here, goes into your forearm, which is the next mode, and then it goes down into your wrist. So it travels down here. It's like a whip. It's what I call a Stevie Ray Vaughan is like a whipping stroke. When he plays guitar, it's like a whipping stroke. If you picture the handle of a whip, all the energy comes from the handle. But where does it end up? At the end of the whip. Pow! Right? So the energy comes from here, the handle, woof, and then it goes down and pow. That's what happens. That's what you want to do with your arm. This is the handle. Goes down the handle into the whip. Pow! So all your strength is right here. This is all your strength. That's why I said do this, because you don't have any strength right here. But boy, oh boy, do you have some strength right here. So now try this. Just hold your arm out and relax your wrist and just whip it like this. That's the Stevie style. And if you watch him, you'll see him. He does this. He bears back like this and he whips down his arm like this on the strings. And when you're doing this, right? Now put your fingers together like you're holding a pick, right? And then just do it tighter. And when you do it tighter, you'll feel your shoulder tensing up. So do it like this. Get it real relaxed. And then just start doing the same amount of strength, but tighter, and you'll feel your forearm and your shoulder tensing up, but you're still using the same amount of power. So you see Stevie just doing these little strokes, but they are hard, man. He's just doing it like this on his guitar, but it is a powerful stroke. That's how you get your sound to jump off the guitar. And you want, when you're using the Stevie technique, it's to get the sound to jump out of the guitar. And then when you amplify it with overdrive and such, it gets even bigger. So now I'm going to demonstrate. First thing you want to do is you want to have a Fender medium pick. You don't have to. I use heavy picks, but Stevie used a medium pick. And do not use the pointed side. Use the side, either the side that has the F on it or the side that has the R on it. My pick is cracked. This pick is from the 80s. So this pick was around when Stevie was around. So you use the fat side of the pick. Okay, I'll just show you. Here's what it's like without the fat side of the pick. Here's with the fat side of the pick. It's a little bigger. There's not much of a difference, but it's a little bigger. Now, you want to use the pick and use the whipping stroke to focus it on the pick so that you get this really strong popping sound out of the strings. Here's a picking stroke without the Stevie Ray Vaughan technique. I got my arm anchored here. Stevie put his arm over the guitar, but it wasn't anchored a lot of times. It looks like it because you're moving your guitar, you're moving your arm like this, so you don't see a lot of, but it's not anchored there. This is not an anchor point, see? You can move your arm away, it's not an anchor point, but when you're doing this type stuff, you can't move your arm away from the guitar. Because when you do, you'll lose all this. This is not a Stevie Ray Vaughan picking stroke. This is with the technique. This is without the technique. This is with the technique. Without. you can hear the difference. The Stevie style jumps off the guitar. This is without the technique. It still sounds good. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to do that. If you want to get a Stevie sound, you know, it jumps. This is without it. This is with it. You want to focus your power on those notes. Now here's a little tip. This is a secret trick here. I read this in a magazine back in the day. Stevie. Back when Stevie was alive, there was no internet, and so you had to read these magazine articles. And I bought every magazine Stevie was in. And in this one magazine, they were talking about his technique, and he said, "Yeah, I hit my fingernail on the string with the pick." And I thought, wow, that's pretty neat, you know? Because I use smaller, like jazz style picks, and my fingernail would naturally hit on the string. So I started kind of working with it. So if you hold your pick with your finger kind of going across the pick like this, and it ends up being on the same plane as the pick right there, you'll get some fingernail in with your sound, and it gives you a texture. It gives you an extra pop. So if you're doing this, now this is with the fingernail. Without the fingernail. With the fingernail. Here it has that pop to it. Now you don't have to do that. You can just use the technique without the fingernail and still get a strong sound. It's hard for me to do it because I play with my fingernail all the time. But the main things that you want to concentrate on here are the whipping motion, the whip of the pick, the whip of your wrist. You want all your power to come from up here. You want to concentrate it on the pick right here. This is the end of the whip. This is the handle. And then you want to focus where you're doing it. So you want to focus, you're doing it here. See, I'm focusing. It looks like I'm just going like bink, 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 but I'm doing that hard. It's hard. Here's without it. Here's with it. It's a big difference. Especially when you're playing with a loud amp and you've got overdrive on your amp. This will pop out big time. So you want to play hard, you want to hit the guitar hard, and you want to do it from up here, and then this is gonna balance where it goes. Power is gonna come from here. This is where you're gonna kind of aim it, and then you're gonna have the energy come out through your pick. And that's where you're going to get that's a Stevie Ray Vaughan right hand technique.